The first thing which I'd like to share with you is that it's about quality of work which you do. You may be working in a company, you may be on your own, you may be in a manufacturing unit, or you may be a service provider. Irrespective of your client or irrespective of the user of your services, you have to give a consistent quality because it is your quality. It is not the quality of the consumer. When somebody approaches me with a project, I'm a service provider. My specialization is in the field of tunneling and rock engineering. So if someone approaches me with a project proposal, I'm excited by the challenges which are involved in that work. I'm spurred on to do that work if I see that that work requires skills of higher level. I'll have fun doing that work. And actually, the money involved comes almost as an afterthought. After having discussed everything, I say, oh, by the way, how much are you going to pay me for this? When I do that, day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, that becomes my quality, not the quality of the person who is consuming this. And you are acknowledged, as I mentioned earlier, a top-notch expert in your industry. And that is the long-term gain, not just in terms of money, but in other things like fulfillment, like satisfaction, like having lived a life which has given you so much pleasure. Second practice which I have been following is constant learning. You must learn and keep on learning, keep abreast of the latest development in your area, and following not just the traditional methods of learning from books or publications, and these days from internet, but also by non-traditional methods, by association with people who know things, by learning from experienced people. I give you an example of my area, which is tunneling, for example, and I'm basically civil engineering. So you go to project sites and you meet workers, you meet foremen who are low down the rung, but then they have a lot of experience of working in those conditions, which you don't find in books. You talk to them, you learn from them. You have to be open to criticism. The day one thinks that I know enough, that's the last day of your learning. And in fact, one of the most effective non-traditional method of learning I have found is teaching. You share your knowledge. Dissemination of what you know brings in so much knowledge back to you. Because, for instance, tomorrow you have a lecture to be given to a bunch of 40 people in your field, and you have been invited because they think you are an expert in your field, and so you would like to put your best foot forward. You will prepare hard for that. You will go through everything, and that will add to your knowledge. Then next day when you're speaking to them, they will ask questions. Some of those questions might expose the gaps in your knowledge. You're stung and you come back and you sort of fill those gaps. You learn more. If I go back to the first practice, and earlier than that you should have fun at work, you can only have fun at work if you have the right skill set, the master of what you're doing. And to do that, you have to constantly keep on learning. The third practice which I have been following and which I advise people to follow also is to have a hobby and pursue it actively. I come across many youngsters who show on paper, on their CVs, that they have this hobby. But that's not enough. Having a hobby and not pursuing it actively, it doesn't give you a good feeling. You should be able to actively pursue the hobby. And many people, and that includes me, often say that we don't have time to do what we want to do. But I give you my own example. The biggest hobby or the most passionate hobby that I have is acting. That is a very demanding hobby. Because if you agree to work in a play, you may have to spend months rehearsing for it. Recently, one of the plays which I did required us to rehearse for 6 months. Of course, on the weekends. That's a big commitment. So despite my busy schedule, if I was able to find time to do that, I think all of us can do it. Because it's human tendency to give priority to something which you want to do. So please have a hobby and pursue it actively. That will bring you a lot of happiness, a lot of satisfaction. You'll feel more energetic. It will affect in a positive way your work as well as your life.